Sitole says the main cause of the police's failure to respond to the July unrest, which saw looting incidents in parts of Gauteng and KZN, is a shortage of capacity within the police. Sitole was given his testimony to the Human Rights Commission's investigations via a video link from Turkey, where he is attending an Interpol conference. The police commissioner said SAPS was overstretched and the modus operandi that was used in instigating the uprising made planning for police interventions difficult. Sitole also blamed communication as an area that needs to be improved. Johan Booysen, former KwaZulu Natal Head of Hawks and author of the book Blood on Their Hands, General Johan Booysen reveals his truth, joins us this morning via, of course, Skype. Good to have you. Thank you very, very much for joining us on the programme.
Good morning, Leanne.
So let's start up front by getting your observation of what happened during those 8 days of unrest in July.
Leanne, I would agree with General Sitole that there had been a lack of capacity in terms of intelligence. But with regards to lack of capacity of human resources, I do not think I agree with him. There are enough policemen and feet on the ground to address these issues. I think the lack of capacity is within crime intelligence, because they were caught completely unawares, because no one is going to convince me that at the time of these riots that there was no intelligence. The planning that went into and the simultaneous attacks in different areas is a clear indication that it was orchestrated, and it's impossible for the crime intelligence or the intelligence fraternity not to have been aware of what was going on. So they either did not communicate that to the operational people, or they did not have the intelligence at all.
Yeah, and that's very, very worrying. It really is. I mean, the SAPS has been severely criticised and accused of being largely absent during the 8 days of rampant criminality. What is your view on Sitole's reason that the SAPS, again, couldn't respond, as you have said? I mean, you don't believe this, but that they were almost taken by surprise, and there's also speculation that the police were told to actually hold back, not to intervene.
Yeah, it remains speculation. I spoke to a number of senior police officers. I'm in the private security industry now, and we had to respond to a number of clients in the KwaZulu Natal area. And in some of the areas, it was almost as if there wasn't any plan whatsoever. They had no contingency plans in place, and they're basically running around like firemen from one fire to the other. I suspect, and I recall in my days in the police, that there were scenarios that we often would exercise and go through different contingency plans. It would appear to me that besides the fact that there was no intelligence, that even if there was intelligence, I'm concerned that if you look at the scope of what happened there, that the operational plans that are in place currently, or the planning that's in place, would not have been able to have had any influence on the riots.
Mm. I mean, they were saying, you know, just some of the other things that he said was, it was the first modus operandi of its kind, saying this was a whole new operandi, according to Khehla Sitole. The first unrest that started directly at level 3, level 1 being the lowest for public unrest. Level 1 and level 2 capacity was already written off when the unrest started. And, you know, he's talking to the fact that this was also on social media, that it was instigated by the use of technology. So this was really just something that took them by surprise. I mean, you've been in these kind of positions as the former head of Hawks. How should the situation have been handled? And I mean, to say that you were taken off guard, is that good enough?
Leanne, they say hindsight's normally 20/20. So I'm sitting in the Western Cape, and I was observing what was happening from a distance. So I would not like to venture an answer. I just think, with regards to the leadership in the police, and maybe that's an area where the police should really examine themselves. I think the leadership in the police, and I'm not referring now to the National Commissioner per se, I'm referring to the leadership across the board. The appointments that have been made of senior officers and senior management over the years, and I come from KwaZulu Natal, I've been part of some of those promotion panels. And when I testified at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, I pertinently made a point of telling the judge that unless they overhaul the promotion policy within SAPS, we're going to remain with incompetent leaders in senior positions that have to make critical decisions during crises, and this was indeed a crisis. And I just think that the leadership overall who had to address these issues did not have the capacity to deal with it.
And that's, yeah, very, very concerning. I mean, another thing that is a little bit worried, Sitole did speak of this one. He also blamed communication as an area that needed to be improved. Also added it was not the main reason that led to the almost unconstrained escalation of looting and violence, but the embarrassing blame game that transpired between government officials told a very different story about how communication happened, even within cabinet. That is a bit concerning. Did that worry you as well?
It does, Leanne. I mean, if at that level they don't have proper communication, what's happening at lower levels, I'm not too sure what the National Commissioner means by the lack of communication. I mean, he did not, as far as I know, did not elaborate. Other than that, what we've read in the press, that there was this blaming game. But it's indeed concerning that if at that level you have members of parliament levelling accusations at each other as to what's responsible for the lack of response.
Yeah. Also, you know, you've experienced having worked as a senior ranking person at the SAPS, I should say. What are the challenges that are faced by the South African police?
Leanne, you know, I think it's a very that's a loaded question. I was listening to a radio interview this morning on a radio station just before I tuned in. I think it's come a long way. Over the years, we've had a lot of changes with national commissioners, starting with Jackie Salebi, and we know what happened with him. And this morning, there was a discussion about the statistics, the latest statistics that were released by the current National Minister, Mr. Khehla. Now, it would appear the only time that the statistics actually came down, the crime statistics actually came down, was during his tenure as National Commissioner. And soon after he departed, the crime started to increase again. I think it was in 2011. And since then, it's been on the increase ever since. So I think, to answer your question in a nutshell, I think a lot needs to be done with regards to leadership in the police. The police service, as I know it and I experience on a daily basis, is permeated with corruption, incompetence, and people that are in positions that should never have been in those positions.
General, we have to unfortunately leave it there. I wish I had a bit more time with you, but thanks for weighing in. Thanks for talking to us and, you know, just highlighting some of the issues that face the police and what is needed to certainly not be in a situation like that again. Former KwaZulu Natal Head of Hawks and author of the book Blood on Their Hands, General Johan Booysen, reveals his truth. He's sharing his perspective with us as a former ranking person in the police, and this as the SAHRC investigates what happened during July uprisings that was characterized by rampant looting in South Africa.